Well, One Nation Weather is here for your forecast for America, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about a huge issue coming in with a pattern of storms that's going to be riding around a ridge in portions of the south central in the near term, and then the potential for a new cold front to be developing as we go towards July 4th. I've got information on that in this video. It's Thursday, June 29th, 2023, but this forecast runs all the way through the weekend towards July 4th and even beyond that. Now, I did want to start by giving you the key messages for the southern U.S. heat wave from the National Weather Service for us here. There's three key points, and number one is that dangerous heat will continue expanding east through the lower Mississippi Valley and Mid-South, as well as into the southeast through Friday. Many areas outside of Texas will begin to experience their most significant heat of the season thus far. Any of these areas in orange are where you're seeing those heat indices of above 100, which is basically covering many portions of the Midwest, the plains, making its way into the southeast and Carolinas as well. Notice how we have this red zone at least through July 1st there, where we could see some of these 110 to 120 degree heat indices, which is very dangerous. So from Nashville all the way back down to the Gulf Coast, very dangerous there. Notice this looks to stay around 100 to 110 as we go towards the July 4th time frame, but still some of these zones around the southeast coast as well as the Gulf Coast could see some of those 120 degree heat indices, which is quite dangerous. Slight relief is expected this weekend for portions of Texas, the lower Mississippi Valley, and Mid-South as temperatures trend down to near normal values. And again, that shifts east with the hazardous heat indices there. And remember that to drink plenty of water due to heat-related dangers. Now, here's a look at your Thursday weather forecast. You can see we have a yellow zone of severe weather expected all the way from portions of Wyoming and Colorado coming off the front range there, making their way all the way on down towards places of the Tennessee Valley. In some of these zones, we could also see some flooding. There's a trough moving through. We have a stationary boundary. A lot going on to support these thunderstorms, and plenty of heat for them as well. Many areas that are going to be affected by the storm, seeing temperatures well into the 90s and at least the 80s. Look at these 100-degree readings making their way well into portions of Missouri, portions of Kansas, really anywhere in the Arklatex as well, seeing 100-degree readings. Those go as far east as places like Birmingham, most of Alabama, Huntsville near 98. It's going to be a very hot day for the day today, as the southwest also heats up with 100-degree digits there into portions of California as well as southwest Arizona. Now here's a look at that severe weather outlook for your Thursday. You can see the level 2 risk comes all the way from portions of Wyoming and Colorado and goes all the way to Tennessee, but the level 3 zone is portions of southeast Iowa, and then these storms will kind of dip around the ridge, make their way on off to the southeast through portions of Illinois and Indiana and into Kentucky. That's going to be the focal point zone for the storms today. The wind outlook is shaped the same. We could see some of those 70, maybe even up to 80 mile per hour gusts, not enough to where we have the significant severe risk, but we do have that for the hail, where some of these storms could, especially as they initialize back to the west and in the main storm line here, could see some of those 2 to 3 inch hailstones get going, maybe some 4-inch ones as well, so we could see some of that softball sized hail get going in 1 or 2 storms. The tornado outlook also does bring at least a few tornadoes into portions of Illinois and Indiana as well as into Kentucky for the day today, and a couple back into the front range. Plenty of storm energy. Winds out of the south and west in the upper levels bringing in plenty of the Cape, the joules per kilogram, making their way into the medium to high levels, meaning storms are very likely to form and get strong if they do form. Here you go, Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Time. Some of these storms getting going into portions of Illinois. And look at how this form's more of a complex of storms. Again, we could see a few of these isolated cells in the mix as well. This looks to be more of a Boeing segment as it makes its way on off to the southeast, though. By 5 p.m. Central Time, I think most of your tornado threat's going to be on the descend for us here in this zone as these make their way through Kentucky. Notice the damaging wind line falls apart, so not enough to make this a derecho. By the way, I talked about that in my latest severe weather series video. Go ahead and check that out. And then as we go towards 9 p.m. Central, that's when these storms fire back on off towards the west, especially portions of Nebraska, again, portions of southeast Wyoming and Colorado. All these zones getting in on some of those storms to fire on back off towards the west. And where the storms are the heaviest, that's where we have those level 2 bullseyes for flooding. That's through Illinois and Kentucky, and then back on off towards Wyoming and Nebraska. Now your Friday weather forecast looks like this. Severe weather looks to shift a little bit further east as we kind of have low pressure systems in a cold front circling its way through the Great Lakes region. That will bring some of the severe weather all the way down towards Appalachia for us here. The western Carolinas getting in on this, North Georgia, all the way again back through Missouri. So let's look at the severe weather outlook in detail. You can see there it is, the slight risk going from Illinois all the way on down into the Carolinas, Virginia, West Virginia. And look at these temperatures that are going to be supporting it. Plenty of 90s, plenty of 80s. Hitting the mountains, that might slow these storms down a little bit, but certainly some can make their way into the rest of the Carolinas. Temperatures in the 90s. Look at this 100-degree readings into portions of the Ozarks. It's going to be very hot. hot on your Friday. And look at this, 110, 112 into portions of southeast California, western Arizona. It is going to be very hot. Phoenix is going to be very toasty as well. Look at this, Friday in the morning. You can see some of these storms getting going in northern Missouri, making their way on off towards the south and east as the day goes on. I think this model's underdoing it just a little bit, but nonetheless, we will have those storms, again, pushing southeast towards the Appalachians, which is why all the way from portions of New York, curling back to those mountains along the Appalachians, and then all the way back over into the central and northern plains, we have the flood risk. Not at a high risk, but certainly isolated spots all throughout that zone. Expected to see some of that flash flooding, which can be dangerous. Turn around and don't drown, of course. Now, as you work your way towards your July 4th weekend, your Saturday weather forecast looks to bring a big bullseye of flooding from Nebraska to Kentucky, and then a big bullseye of severe weather from Missouri to the Carolinas and Virginia for us here. So a very similar look almost to your Friday weather forecast, as we have that cold front draping all the way back down into portions of Texas as well. Also watch some of the new activity developing into North Dakota. Saturday high temperatures, they're backing off a little bit for us. No 100-degree readings anticipated in a widespread fashion in portions of the Ozarks and Arklatex. Again, just as the National Weather Service was talking about, backing off to near normal levels, but still this is very dangerous with the heat indices being near 100 to above it. You're still going to want to be drinking plenty of water with outdoor activities, mowing the lawn before friends and family come over, all that kind of thing, all those kind of things. And then look at this 90s to 100-degree reading still building further east, Alabama getting in on those as well. 80s in the northern tier, and then look at this, 100, 110, 115-degree readings in portions of the southwest, insane levels there. There's that severe weather shield as we go into our Saturday. Eastern Missouri going on down towards South Carolina and North Georgia, we have that risk, especially for damaging winds as it looks right now. The model kind of brings these storms a little bit further north. I would say those are further south. This is the RGEM model on tropicaltidbits.com. We'll watch them move west to east initially and then curl on down to the southeast again as that ridge continues to degrade across portions of the mid-south. They have to make their way around that, which is why our flood risk on Saturday is going to be the highest right above that ridge where the rain is falling down the heaviest. Some of these higher totals, above 2 inches in some cases, from Nebraska all the way down to Kentucky, could be very dangerous. Now, Sunday forecast high temperatures, look at this, plenty of 90s all the way on up into the northern tier, and we'll see more of these 90s in the southeast. Notice this is more controlled. It's more widespread controlled heat as opposed to a bullseye of intense heat. It'll still be very dangerous for more people, though, since we'll have this more widespread heat. Look at the southwest seeing the 100-degree readings. Northeast looking to stay pretty comfortable towards your Sunday with highs in the 80s. Not too bad for this time of the year. Your Sunday upper-level pattern has a storm crossing portions of the central areas of the country. Dew points making their way well into the 70s if you're basically east of the plains. So that is going to mean storms will be developing. Look at this. This is your PWAT, your precipitable water anomaly, and you can see southwest winds coming out straight out of that. The subtropical jet stream that's going to be supporting plenty of thunderstorm growth, which is why I think as we go to our Sunday, portions of Indiana over into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky, we need to watch out for medium certainty from on my end. That's what I'm predicting for your Sunday severe weather. Low end risk going all the way down to the southeast coast with another zone, a level 1 severe weather risk from Colorado and Nebraska down to New Mexico in the Texas Panhandle zones for us there. There's your radar Sunday afternoon. Again, some of those spotty storms there, but the bigger storm coverage looks to be with that system moving eastward into portions of the Northeast and Ohio Valley. Your Monday forecast high temperatures look like this. We've got 90s surging northward. Again, more widespread 90s. Northeast starting to heat up as well. We could see temperatures get near 90 into portions of the New York City area with 115-degree readings right along the tri-state border for you there in Nebraska, Arizona, and California. It is just going to be intense heat there, and that's even above average for their standards for this time of the year in the further west zones. Look at this. Most spots seeing some heat that will help build these storms. Many of the blue areas you're seeing is because it's going to be stormy. The upper air pattern shows that as well. You can see these blue areas being where the low pressures are, making their way further east on your Monday. Look at the dew points. Plenty of 60s and 70s. All you really need is a 60-degree dew point to support some decent thunderstorms. When you get 70 plus, you're talking considerable thunderstorm growth. Notice how we will have some drier air trying to work in Monday afternoon into portions of the central tier as new more wet air starts to filter back into the west. But look at where most of the moisture is going to be along the east coast and down into portions of the south, which is why that is my zone for severe weather uncertainty on Monday. At least a low-end zone from portions of the northeast, not really up into New England, but curling back around through portions of the Arklatex and into Oklahoma and Texas, with another zone developing with a new system working its way through the northern plains. We'll talk about that in just a moment. You can see that kind of draping its way through there. And then we also have that east coast activity continuing on your Monday afternoon. Now, the all-important forecast, July 4th, your Tuesday forecast, high temperatures well into the 90s in many zones. We will have some cooler temperatures where storms try to develop into the mountain west. Look at this, still very hot in the southwest. And your forecast moisture on Tuesday, look, the dryer is starting to degrade. New moisture making its way into portions of the plains, which means new storms getting going in the plains. Some of that storm energy, this is what I really wanted you to see for your Tuesday. You can see many zones, at least in the East Coast, seeing a little bit of moisture, but not too much. It looks like it comes out of Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi, and then especially back on up into the northern plains. That's where our best storm energy is going to be. That's why I've got our severe certainty on Tuesday as a medium zone. So if you live in portions of the Dakotas, Minnesota, even Nebraska, I think, and back down towards portions of New Mexico, we need to watch that zone for some severe weather. And then the southeast pop-ups Tuesday afternoon from the lingering system that's been crossing the country and moving around the ridge, that will still be around. That will hang out from Arkansas all the way back into the Carolinas and Virginia. Again, there's that degrading system. Here's the new one up in Canada, bringing a cold front down the country. And you can see that there, Tuesday, rain pattern. Look at that. Those storms look quite feisty. And we'll watch out for some larger scale wind and hail events out of these storms as they make their way on off towards the east. Yep, Wednesday, here's my severe certainty. I've got a medium zone from Wisconsin back into portions of Kansas. Still a good bit away, almost a week away as of your Thursday for us here, but we're keeping an eye on this, of course, giving you those exclusive forecasts. And a dangerous cold front, July 4th through 8th. Look at how the GFS model brings a strong system into the Great Lakes that could drape a cold front and bring dangerous weather all the way through the end of next week and into next weekend. We will certainly be watching that closely. And then your 7-day tropical outlook brings a 20% chance of development towards places into Canada for us here. The good news is we do not have much in the way of tropical activity making its way towards the United States otherwise. So the headlines recap: dangerous heat in many southern zones. The storm track, at least in the short term, will be from the Midwest to Appalachia. July 4th could feature a new storm system, and the tropical activity is quieting down again, at least for now, but we'll watch tropical waves as they make their way towards the Gulf later in the month. Subscribe, hit the like button, and here are the credits. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go ahead and like and subscribe.